White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller was reportedly furious with ICE officials during a tense meeting in late May.
The Washington Examiner reports that 3 current and former federal immigration officials dished them the details of the exchange.
Now, one of those officials who spoke with attendees of the meeting that day told the Examiner, Miller came in there and eviscerated everyone. You guys aren't doing a good job. You're horrible leaders. He just ripped into everybody. He had nothing positive to say about anybody. He shot down morale. The official continued, quote, Stephen Miller wants everybody arrested. Why aren't you at Home Depot? Why aren't you at 7-Eleven?
Miller also became irate per the Examiner when an ICE official told Miller that they were targeting criminal illegal immigrants and not illegal immigrants in general. The ICE official reportedly said that their priorities were in line with the DHS and White House messaging.
An ICE spokesperson told the Examiner that Miller did not say many of the things the outlet reported on, so they're denying this report. Miller himself did not respond to the Examiner's request for comment.
Senior fellow at the American Immigration Council, Aaron Reichlin, Melanchek, responded to the story on X, writing, quote, why are ICE officers going into immigration courts to arrest people with no criminal records? People diligently showing up to their court hearings who haven't violated any of the terms of their release because Stephen Miller wants high numbers and doesn't care how he gets it.
Meanwhile, political commentator Ian Miles Chong wrote, Miller is correct. ICE should go beyond detaining and deporting only criminals, as every illegal alien is, in fact, a criminal. But it is a matter of priorities because there's finite resources that ICE has, and there are millions of people in the country illegally, so you just have to do prioritization. It's impossible to go, I don't even think there's neither the money nor the actual political will to go door to door and detain everyone who is in the country illegally. So you have to have priorities, and the priorities of Tom Homan, of the federal government, of Donald Trump, are people who have engaged in other crimes, including and especially violent crimes, or people who have terrorist affiliations or gang affiliations. That's who ICE is spending time with. So I thought this was a notable point from Stephen Miller that he's not satisfied with that. He actually just wants the mass deportation of everyone.
Yeah, I think if Stephen Miller wanted real immigration reform that was long-lasting, that would target anybody who wasn't coming here through the correct quote-unquote channels, then we would have allowed Congress to pass a bill in 2024.
Well, he wants immigration reform. He just wants it reformed so that there's no immigration.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, Senate Republicans wouldn't have blocked it twice in 2024, and then maybe we could have started enacting removing criminals from the country first, which is a very low number. Yeah, but protecting our borders goes into the broader conversation about immigration, right? They're trying to figure out ways to lower immigration. The argument is that a lot of people are coming here to commit crimes, but even though the number is very minuscule compared to the actual number of immigrants we have that are committing crimes, more everyday Americans are committing crimes, you know, basic people. So I think that whole argument is skewed. But going after people who are criminals, everyone can agree upon. The entire American public agreed that we do need immigration reform. And I think everyone came to the table, and Democrats tried to show good faith and come to the table in 2024. So hopefully Congress can come up with a real solution to immigration because, yes, the numbers are down, but also people are not comfortable with the way that the President Trump and Republicans are going about it, you know, sending people to countries that they don't need to be.
I don't know that people are uncomfortable with it. I think people are mostly fine with it. But
well, no, I think polls have.
Liberals are not fine.
No, polls have shown that Americans do think immigration needs to go down, but they don't know about the way that Trump is going about it and the administration is going about it. So to exaggerate that even more and just be parked up at 7-Eleven or Home Depot seems so extreme that we need to come up with a strategy. I don't agree that that's the next step.
Part of it is there are a couple different arguments that are being made against mass migration here. There's a sort of economic harm that I don't find particularly persuasive. It's not in my area of the right where I have much overlap, but some of the America First national conservative crowd, they want it, frankly, it doesn't matter if it's illegal or legal. They want less immigration because they think particularly low-skill immigrants compete with American jobs and are lowering wages for everybody, and they think, you know, America is for the Americans, and they want, maybe there's a kind of social policy as well, so they just want less immigration. They don't care if it's illegal or legal. They want less immigration. That's one argument. Then there's a different kind of argument, which is more about national security and safety, that doesn't really impact so much the high-skill immigrants, unless they're coming from China, and we think there's some national security rationale for that reason. I think that's plausible and perfect for the government to scrutinize that. I think that is a more legitimate reason to want to restrict or at least be cautious about who is coming into the country. We are not obligated to admit people who are hostile to the U.S. for terrorist reasons or gang reasons or associations with communist China. That is fine to me. We can look at that, but it should be done with due process and not just overbroad. Kicking out everyone who's an international student at Harvard is not what I would say is the right answer.
And I think America's at its best when it values order and humanity, right? A lot of immigrants are coming here because they're fleeing dire circumstances. For example,
people
that I've interviewed, I know you don't have the same amount of empathy that I have. People who are fleeing dire circumstances from places like Venezuela that I've sat with and spoken to, they're not coming here to just steal our, jobs, and they're literally trying to work hard and boost the economy, do any job that is in line with any skill that they have, and really try to make a great life here in America. And so we can provide the opportunity to do that or figure out a reform to our immigration system, but trying to mass deport them and throw them out feels unethical, and like we're not trying to find real solutions. Like, countries thrive on immigration. That brings a diversity of thought and experience. It brings low and high level jobs. We talk about that with foreign students coming in for Harvard and other schools. And so I think trying to just throw everyone out is really extreme, and there needs to be a more thoughtful solution to something that countries have thrived on since the beginning of time.
If they're coming here to work, that's absolutely fine.
As most of them are.
That's fine, as long as they're not taking away more from the social protection welfare system that we have, that's fine. And then as long as they're not hostile or violent or criminal. I mean, every time an illegal immigrant, as was the case yesterday, this horrific attack in Boulder.
Well, he had a visa that he overstayed, so it's not the same thing as, that's not the same argument as somebody who crossed over the border illegally. He literally had a visa and overstayed, wasn't in the country properly. He might have stayed anyway if Trump was president and not Biden. He might have overstayed his visa. How can you control that? But you just said we can't go door to door. No, but we can't go door to door. So we agree on criminals.
No.
He wouldn't be looked at as a criminal prior to committing the criminal act, so we wouldn't have been at his door. Right. So that argument is kind of...
That's not the point I was making. What I was saying is the argument that people who are supportive of more levels of immigration, and I count myself in this category, need to recognize a fundamental problem that when things like this happen, it radicalizes the whole country, the whole population, against being accepting of more immigrants. So we need to screen carefully, even if you're for maximal levels of immigration, because things like this, what happened yesterday, this makes people furious when they find out that this person should not have been in the country. Yes, he didn't cross the border illegally. He overstayed a traveler's visa and then a work permit. He should not have been here. He hates Israel and Jewish people, and he set them freaking on fire in a public place, and that is going to really, that affects people's perceptions of who's coming into our country. Why are we being so accepting and so welcoming to people who want to set American citizens on fire?
Well, I think the perception gets shifted because of the conversation that our highest officials are having, that this is an immigration problem rather than somebody who's acting terroristically single-handedly, right? It has nothing to do with immigration and everything to do with a bad actor, everything to do with a criminal that should be in jail. And so when you conflate those two, then yes, Americans will be stoked with fear, thinking that all immigrants will bring problems, which is why I said we should bring the rhetoric down and get to the heart of the issue, which is protecting Americans. Coming up next, Sesame Street post causes so much meltdown from conservatives. That's next.